Welcome everybody. It's great to have you here. This is our first Gravitas Consultancy Solutions client event, so pleased for you all to join today. I'm going to share my screen shortly just to show you what we're looking to cover off today, but really want to make this event as interactive as possible. So if you have any questions throughout, please do jump in. We do have an element where we'll be going into more of a discussion, so you can save them for them, but if you've got any questions as we run on, then that's great. Can also just ask everybody, when you're not talking, just to put yourself on mute so we don't have any feedback. That's brilliant. And we will get things underway. So I will share my screen now. If you can just give me a thumbs up when you can see that, that would be great. I'm seeing some nods, so that's brilliant. Right, okay, fantastic.
Matt, you're not in presentation mode though.
Yeah, I'm just about to change that. Chris, you're trying to get ahead of me before I've even started.
Just checking, sir. Just checking.
Fantastic. Right. Okay. So the plan for today is we will do introductions. So myself, Chris, and Julie, who will be speaking to you. I'll then give you a high-level overview of Gravitas Consultancy Solutions, why we were established and what we can offer to you. I'm also going to cover off what an outcome-based solution is and what the benefits are. Now, I know there's a number of you who will be on different stages of your understanding and your journey when it comes to using outcome-based solutions, so keen to just cover that off to make sure everyone's on the same page. I'll then hand over to Chris to talk about our service offering and our approach in more detail and a little bit about why partnering with us. I'll then hand over to Julie, and she is one of our clients that we are currently working with on an outcome-based solution, so she'll be able to talk to you a bit more about her experience, what their requirements were, and how we've been able to partner with them. It will then come on to the discussion forum, so really interested to hear people's questions, thoughts, make sure that you have anything covered off and make sure that it's a really interactive session, and then wrap things up so that we're finishing off by 1 o'clock. So we'll start off with the introductions. I'll go first. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Matt Hepworth. I am Head of Business Development for Gravitas Consultancy Solutions. I have been with Gravitas for over 18 months, but my background is I've been working in the recruitment and solutions industry for over 10 years, selling larger scale solutions to clients, whether that's RPO, MSP, project recruitment solutions, and that could be on a small scale, or I've also worked on multi-country, multi-location solutions and multi-year solutions. I actually also started my career out in consultancy about 5 years before I got into recruitment, so I've seen both sides of the table from consultancy and recruitment. So it gives me a good insight into the challenges and also how we can develop solutions for our clients. I'm going to hand over to Chris to introduce himself, and then we'll let Julie introduce herself.
Thanks, Matt. Hi, everybody. I'm Chris Llewellyn, if you don't know me. I blame Sue, who's on the call, for everything that's happened here because she was the one who introduced me to Gravitas 10 years ago. So it's all Sue's fault. I've been around in the IT industry for the best part of 30-odd years. If you can name a service provider, I've either worked for them or with them at some point during that time. I've known Gravitas for 10 years. As I say, at some point I've been a customer of theirs, so just like you, getting them on sort of perm and contract recruitment for me, and I've also been a contractor through them, so I've seen both sides of that as well. I've started with Gravitas on the 4th of January this year after a sort of long conversation with John, the MD. Sort of reacting to sort of the changes in the world and whatever else, Gravitas wanted to make sure if they were doing anything in this space, they were doing it well and with the sort of experienced individuals around it. So John sort of started speaking to me last September and seeing if it was something I was interested in. I was, and sort of here I am today, sort of heading up the consultancy practice for Gravitas, and sort of really looking forward to getting things going. Bringing my sort of wealth of knowledge and experience to it, along with the sort of the network of people that I've gathered over the years. So that's a brief introduction about me, but we'll talk more later. So Julie, I'll just quickly hand over to you and you can introduce yourself and then we'll take it from there.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Hi, everyone. My name's Julie Turnbull. I'm the CFO at Cooplands Son Scarborough Limited, which I'll talk to you a little bit more about that later. My background is I've been in the food industry for 30 plus years, always in a finance role, but I have had IT responsibilities for most of those 30 years in a range of businesses, from very small family-owned businesses right through to AIM-listed businesses. But as I say, always in food, obviously because I'm quite old and I've been around a long time. I've seen an awful lot of changes on the IT spectrum. So, but I will talk to you a bit later on about the challenges that I've experienced in my current role and how Gravitas have helped me.
Brilliant, thanks Julie. And just before we go on, I've just seen Mark's note about the reason why he's late. That's got to be one of the best reasons for turning up late for a meeting. I think probably one of the different ones now that people are working from home. So I hope you managed to catch the landmark.
Yeah, he got under the fence here. He knew exactly where he got in. So as soon as I got out, he ran straight back out.
Fantastic. All right. Okay, so who are Gravitas Consultancy Solutions? Well, I think a number of you know who Gravitas are, but Gravitas Consultancy Solutions is the consulting and professional services practice of Gravitas. So very much building on that specialist tech-focused recruitment agency background. As a group, we are over 200 employees across the UK and Asia. We work across a wide range of clients, from startups, scale-ups and enterprise level clients across both the public and the private sectors. The business itself was established back in 2010, and we were back in October 2019, we got private equity investment, so we have institutional backing and we have a very stable financial platform upon which we have built the business and continue to grow year on year. Really core to the way we work as a business is that we partner with our clients to provide efficient and high quality solutions, and it's something that we really pride ourselves on. It's something that it's the same level of principles that we're looking to apply to Gravitas Consultancy Solutions, but we're looking to evolve what we do to provide that outcome-based approach via our consultancy services business. We've already developed a associate pool of specialists, so that's leveraging the networks and the communities of tech, IT and transformation specialists that we've been working with for many years and across multiple specialisms and sectors. And Chris will talk to you a little bit more about that later on. We're also very proud of our Net Promoter Score. So for those of you who know what a Net Promoter Score is, it's something that we actually measure and continually measure across our clients and the specialists and the candidates that we work with. And we are proud that our Net Promoter Score is 52.6. So that anything above 50 is considered excellent. And certainly in an industry where maybe recruitment doesn't always have the best reputation, it's great to be able to say that we have such a high Net Promoter Score, and really demonstrates the level of quality and relationships and partnerships that we have both with our clients, but also with the specialists that we work with at those clients. And finally, I just want to emphasize that our values really do underpin everything that we do. So we very much take the approach of working in respect with our clients. Everything we do is based on our integrity, and I know this is something that resonates very closely with Chris when he joined the business. And of course, we're very passionate about what we do. That's really helped us grow and continue to excel as a business. And then ultimately, we want to make sure we are doing the best thing by our clients. So why was Gravitas Consultancy Solutions established? Well, this picture will probably make sense in a bit more detail, but I just want to give you a bit of background about how we came to be how we are today. So last year we spent a lot of time talking to clients and really making sure that we understand what clients' needs are. And it's something that, as I'll emphasize throughout this, that we really value our the client relationships we have, but also the opinions of our clients, and want to make sure that we can partner with our clients as effectively and as deeply as possible. We started doing some market research prior to deciding that we were actually going to set up our consultancy offering, and then we actually partnered with a specialist third party that helped us set up the consultancy offering that we have today. And we continued to do that market research and mapping and spoke very closely to a lot of our clients. There were some real common challenges that were coming up. One that really stood out, and I'm sure this will resonate with pretty much everybody, is that they found that often projects within technology, IT and transformation, to be honest, across businesses wherever we were speaking to, were not being delivered on time or on budget. Clients were also concerned about R35 risks and the liabilities of using the contractors in the same way that they've been used to for many years. Now, I know everyone's probably sick of hearing IR35 and has gone through either that journey back in 2017 with the public sector, or more recently for the private sector. And it's something that we've been working very closely with our clients, but it's also encouraged clients to start to think about different ways of engaging with the resources that they need to work on these projects. Clients also felt that there was very little accountability or no accountability for delivery for specified outcomes across the suppliers and the individuals that they were working with. And they also felt that linked to this, that there was very much a lack of partnership, which meant that there was really not much of a strategic or long-term approach with the suppliers that they were working with. And similarly, there was those clients who were looking to engage in these particular ways felt that some of the large consultancies and systems integrators were just too expensive, or they were taking a very sort of boilerplate off-the-shelf approach. Or conversely, they felt they were actually concerned that some of the new market entrants and smaller niche consultancies didn't necessarily have that compliant approach or the financial stability or longevity that they were really looking for from a partner. And finally, and this is why the picture makes sense, they just want to really find a supplier that takes that John Lewis approach. And what I mean by that is that high quality partnership approach. You know that if you're buying something from John Lewis, you're going to be buying quality, you're going to get the right level of service, and you know that if there's anything wrong with that product, or if there's anything that you need to do, you can get the highest quality customer service. And that's something that we very much want to continue to pride ourselves on as a business, and put that stamp of approval on everything we do from our side. So what can we offer you? Well, very much Gravitas Consultancy Solutions is based on providing an alternative, and ultimately we feel more effective way when the opportunity is right to engage with those specialist IT transformation and technical resources. It also works very well with the business and the offering that we provide across Gravitas Group, because we make sure that we're providing the right service in the right way. So there are going to be times when actually taking on a contractor is going to be the best solution. And we had this last week with a client where they were going through a transformation program, but they needed someone extremely quickly. We already had terms in place, and it was actually best to provide them with a contractor rather than a statement of work solution. But also there are going to be times where an outcome-based solution is going to be more relevant. So it's very much about providing that right service in the right way and leveraging the strength of the network and the knowledge that we've got in this space. We're also really keen to stress that this is a genuine consultancy offering. So we've put a lot of time and investment in getting this right. We've brought on Chris, who brings with him a wealth of knowledge and experience in outcome-based solutions and professional services. And it's very much taking the approach of providing this as a service rather than a thinly veiled approach to just continuing to do contract recruitment. And that's something that we really want to make sure is clear. And then again, want to emphasize that we're going to continue to operate to those high standards that people are used to us, and making sure that we continue to execute swiftly and effectively, but also in a very compliant way, which is absolutely key when you're thinking about outcome-based solutions. So before I move on to the outcome-based approach, does anyone have any questions around that, or anything that they'd like to raise at this point in time? No questions. Okay, fantastic. So what is an outcome-based approach? Well, I've tried to break this down so that it really shows the different constituent elements. And it's something that we've been using not only to talk to clients, but also to talk internally as we go on the journey to help position this within our business. And typically, and this is what a lot of yourselves will be used to doing, or people who are very much at the start of this journey, is they're typically used to engaging with contractors or individuals as contractors via a provision of labor. So lots of people will be used to engaging with contractors via their PSCs or engaging them via umbrella companies, but it's an individual who comes into your business and will do a piece of work ultimately under your direction. Where a provision of service or an outcome-based approach differs is not through those individuals who are doing the work themselves. Typically, they will be the individuals that you would have used on a contract basis, but they will just be being engaged in a different way. So you're still getting access to the same specialist knowledge and skills, but where the difference comes is that they will be working on a clearly defined outcome. So typically this outcome is broken down into deliverables and milestones that you can measure against, and you can ultimately then align the performance and payment in commercial terms of those individuals on that piece of work. And then overlaying that is the project management and governance layer. And this is really important because this ensures that you're able to track the performance and the delivery against these milestones. And this is one of the key reasons and how you're able to then transfer that risk from yourself to the supplier, and ultimately that accountability for delivery, which helps to address some of the challenges that we raised earlier. So how this all comes together then, and you will have heard the phrase statement of work frequently, but this all comes together under a statement of work where you have that clearly defined outcome, and then you will have different milestones, and then the resource and the individuals will be working towards that statement of work. Does that make sense in its simplistic terms? Brilliant. Nods of heads is always good. So what are the benefits of an outcome-based approach? Well, it allows you to control budget and spend, and that you're able to do that by having very clearly defined tasks that you can match against commercial terms and ultimately pay upon completion of those tasks. Something that you aren't able to do if you're just taking resource on a time and materials basis. It also allows you to mitigate and transfer the risk that I've just mentioned. So one of the things it does, if done in the most effective way, is that it allows you to remove IR35 risk, but also by transferring that accountability to the supplier, it also transfers the risk in delivery. It also allows you to guarantee timelines and delivery, and that's again linking back to those defined tasks and that project management and governance layer. It allows you to track against that and make sure people are hitting those timelines and making sure that those projects and programs are delivered on time. It also really drives a partnership approach, and I think this is a really important point to make, is that by having that accountability and governance that is applying to the suppliers and the individuals that you're working with, it really encourages a collaborative and long-term approach, and that's something that we really want to build on with our clients that we're working with. It also allows you to access this broader skills within the market, and more importantly, access people who work in proper service-oriented ways, not people who are still effectively doing BAU type work, but those who've got specialist knowledge who will often only want to engage with you in this way and not in any other ways. And then finally, no unicorn chasing. Now you're probably thinking, what on earth is Matt on about here? What we're talking about here is really something that Chris has got a bit of a rice mark as he coined this phrase, but it allows you, by taking tasks on a piece of work and setting them out, means that it might be, instead of searching for that individual who's the unicorn, who's got to get multiple different specialisms and abilities, you can split these different tasks across multiple different resources, and that allows you to then structure the approach so that you can get the work done effectively, cost effectively, and you can also align the task to those individual specialist requirements rather than trying to search for that unicorn who ticks all of the boxes, which, as we know, is very tricky to find in the market, even if you're working with someone like Gravitas. So I'm going to hand over to Chris now, who will be able to talk to you in a little bit more detail around our consultancy solutions offering and why you should be partnering with us. So Chris, I will hand over the hosts to you.
Thanks, Matt. Okay, everybody, any questions on sort of what Matt's done before I start? I will take resounding silence as no. Okay, so Matt, I don't seem to have fully got control. Ah, there we go. Are we working? I saw it come up, Matt, but I don't think it's not clicking on.
Let me try again.
Sorry, everybody. Small technical glitch.
It should be with you, Chris.
triangle. Just move the slide on for me. It's
Sure.
probably quickest for everybody.
Yeah, see that.
Okay, so first thing I want to sort of talk about is just a sort of quick overview of sort of our consulting solutions, how they vary, how we've listened to our customers and sort of what they would like us to do. And if you can move on, Matt, please. So the first thing that we want to talk about is that sort of fully outsourced service. And this is the bit where we see customers are very interested in this approach based on the unicorn comment that Matt made earlier, where we actually start to take individual resources and apply them to your solution at the time they're needed and only for the time they're needed. So you can have experts in their field delivering elements of a solution for you just for as long as you need them. So where you would traditionally looking at sort of hiring a bunch of people for a period of time, we just use them as out of our pool of people into the solution to be as effective and optimal as we can. On the fully outsourced basis, what you're actually getting us to do is create a solution for you that is done on a milestone basis, and each milestone has a set of key deliverables that you're going to get at a fixed price and a fixed scope, delivered by experts in the field, so that you get control over your budget, your timeframes, and we address all those points that Matt was referring to earlier on that clients are coming back to us on about that sort of overrun and spill of projects. Because you give it to us as ownership, one, we have the accountability and we also own the risk of making sure that we do deliver on time. We're very focused on making that happen. And obviously, you don't pay anything until milestones are actually achieved. You're happy with them and they're delivered. The only downside to this from your perspective is obviously you have to be very clear about elements of a solution that you are accountable and you are responsible for. They'll be clearly defined in any statement of work that we put out for you. It'll be very clear as to sort of what's required and when it's required. And that's how that enables us to deliver on a milestone basis. All of that would be discussed with you when we create the solution in the first place. You would be absolutely bought into it. We're not going to spring anything on you that you're not capable of delivering. But for argument's sake, if we were to sort of give you an example of what I'm talking about there, if it's a case of we're doing a compliance piece of work and we need to speak to all your associated people who are going to be going for the ISO qualification, we need access to those individuals. If they can't make the time and can't make themselves available, we can't do our job. So those dependencies are clearly identified up front. Everybody can get the buy-in, people can be notified, and then we can go ahead and deliver the solution. Now, these pieces of work can be small engagements for 2 or 3 months through to large transformational programs that can go on for 12 months plus. We can break all of those down into smaller sections to suit yourselves, and we work with you based on what your outcomes, what your desires are, and what budgets you have. And we shape the whole outsourced solution to be in line with that. The second offering then that we want to talk about is more about the managed service style solution. And this is where we have a number of items where we can give you a sort of regular service that looks at sort of supporting you, or you can actually outsource to us a certain element of your business. So things like if you've got software asset management sort of requirements and license management requirements, consumption models, as I talked about earlier, the compliance side of things, if you have compliance requirements, audits, etc., we can help you get through all of those, or we can manage the whole thing on your behalf. Either way is feasible with us. So we can do what we call a support service, where we sort of on a regular basis, monthly, quarterly, whatever it needs to be to suit your needs. We can provide you with experts in the field who are up to date with the right regulations and compliance requirements, who can advise you on what you're doing and help you through and maintaining whatever service it is you need. Cybersecurity is another one that falls nicely into this space. We can help you with those. So it's all those items that you are perhaps assigning to somebody within your business as a tack on to their day job because it needs to be covered, but they're not necessarily sort of full-time on that piece of work. those sort of things we can support with, or even take away from that individual as you want, and provide you with experts who are constantly working in that field and therefore are up to date and know all the latest and greatest changes in those areas. It's not for everybody, but it's certainly, we have had some requests in this space. And then the final offering that we've got is around what we're deeming agile services. And this is sort of short, punchy pieces of work where you need an expert for a certain period of time, where we can put it into a statement of work for you. We can put that governance piece over the top in the way as a PMO as a service, so that we're monitoring what's being done, how it's being done, and that sort of you and we are meeting all our obligations to make sure that it is an outcome-based solution. And that sort of applies to some people who have sort of short-term requirements for a particular piece of work that they're doing, and they just need that expertise for a short period of time. Or there's back to the unicorn chasing analogy, there's sort of just little punchy elements that you need help with to get you over the line to support your existing teams. So those are our sort of main sort of ways of working and sort of how you can engage with us. We also spent a lot of time talking to our existing customer base and reviewing the industry generally, and looking at where should we start to focus. We all know IT is a very large subject, and there's lots of areas that we could cover. So we wanted to make sure that the first areas that we tackled were very much in line with our current customer base and market trends. And working with a third party that Matt mentioned earlier on, this is what we came up with. So we've very much got the 5 service towers that we've got across the bottom, and then overarching over that is our program transformation and governance element. Now that's where we have all our engagement managers, so project and program managers, service management. We do business analysis and transformation in that space, and where our PMO service sits. Those people, we've got skill sets in that area that cover all the 5 service towers that you see below, and they've got experience in delivering and capability in those areas. Talking to our customer base, the first 4 towers were the main areas of interest. So we have that architecture space. Now this is very much sort of that business enterprise solution and technical architecture. So we can do the full stack piece there. We can just go down to the bottom element and look at technical architecture if that's what you need, or we can work with a business to look at their whole transformational shape that they're trying to do at the moment. So there's a whole range of people in the architect space, various degrees of skills. We've got them all covered. Obviously, Microsoft is very popular at the moment. A lot of 365 from Dynamics and ERP and CRM situations, the business intelligence factor, and then all the sort of SharePoint and .NET customization piece. So we have a number of experts in Microsoft. We've got the whole cloud solution. A lot of you are interested in that at the moment. We can cover all bases. We're very independent on sort of an agnostic to sort of whatever provider you want. We can provide people in that space. And then we've got the sort of the development stack. So we can do everything from full stack development, sort of your standard Agile and DevOps piece. One of the things that people have been talking to us about is they've got their own development teams, but that sort of testing and quality assurance section is not necessarily there. So if they want just that element, we can provide a team that does that, or we can provide the whole remit of resources that fit in that space. And you can mix and match as you need them. Talking to a couple of our clients, they expressed a need for sort of a compliance requirement, and it was something we were looking to put in from the managed service point anyway. So we've very much got that ISO certification and audit process and compliance requirement covered here. We can do specific projects where we will go in and help you get qualified for a particular compliance, and we're doing that with a customer at the moment. We can do that sort of annualized support service on a monthly, quarterly, annual basis, or we can actually take out a full managed service with you. And we've got some leading experts in the field in that space who do that really well for us. So those are the sort of technologies that we're focused on at the moment. We are absolutely not limited to those. We're putting those out there as our standard offerings and our early adoption space, because that's what our customers have, or you as our customers have told us you want. But if there's anything you want that isn't in that sort of standard service catalog that we have there, just let us know, because we have far more capability in our service portfolio, and we're developing that and growing that on a sort of daily basis. So if you don't see it here, it doesn't mean we don't do it. It's just this is our early adoption focus for the moment. So we'll then go on to talk a little bit about how we resource that. So we've got three methods of resourcing. We've got our sort of permanent team. Team is running about 20 people at the moment, a combination of sort of the management team, engagement managers, back office support people, sales staff, etc. That's very much supported by our associate model. Now, for those of you who haven't used an associate model or understand an associate model, I'll give you a little bit of background on that. That's a bunch of leading experts in their particular fields that we've contracted with and got a partnership agreement that says they will provide us services directly to us. So we've got all of these 5 service towers. We've got leading experts in the field who can support and deliver under that banner. So if we don't have the in-house perm staff to do it, or there's a capacity issue, they're all busy doing other things for the clients, we can reach out into our associate model and get some of these specialist skills. Likewise, if there are unique people who are the leaders in their field that we haven't necessarily got internally, we would go to them for specific requirements as well. And then finally, the last element is what we call the contingent workforce piece. And this is if we've just got some standard roles that we need to fulfill and we can't fulfill them within our perm and associate resources, which we would go to first, we just become Gravitas's other customer, and we get them to go out and find those individuals for us to assign to your project and add them in. They will all be vetted, they will all be to the standard Gravitas standard, and they will work with the perm and associate teams to fulfill whatever requirement we have, where we have capacity or challenges on sort of time frames or etc. But primarily it's the perm and the associate model that we're using to deliver this. To give you some sort of idea of where we are, we completed the phase 1 onboarding of our associates sort of last month, and sort of these are the numbers that sort of run across the towers to give you some sort of idea of capacity on there. We are working on the phase 2. It's in progress at the moment, and when we finish, these are the numbers that we will be getting up to in each of those compliance towers. But obviously, because we only sort of launched the practice in March, and we're building that pipeline, what we don't want to be doing is keeping a lot of people sitting around waiting for sort of opportunities to come in place and not keep them busy. So they're all there. We can ramp them up as soon as we need to. We're just bringing them on slowly as it meets up with the pipeline as we develop it. We're not limited to those 2 phases. There will be more phases coming on the back of that as and when we get the pipeline from our customer base. So a little bit about why partnering with us. What's the differentiator? Why should you work with Gravitas rather than sort of any other service provider? We've touched on that sort of expertise, the people we have in-house, the people we have in our associate model, leaders in their field. They know exactly what they're talking about. We will introduce them to you before we start any work. You can sort of vet them yourselves if you like. Understand their backgrounds. We have bios for all of them that explain sort of their history, their background, their major achievements. So you can see that these people have been in the industry a long while. They know what they're talking about and they know how to deliver. So that sort of adds into the sort of the credibility side of things. This is absolutely, as Matt highlighted earlier on, we are here to be a consultancy service. We are not just sort of another way of getting resources as you would from any other recruitment firm. We're about giving you the best people in the industry in the best way and in a fashion that works well for you. Which just brings us on to sort of that sort of from a confidence point of view. You know, as Matt touched on, we've got sort of the right level of financial stability. We've been around in the industry a long time. I certainly have been around the industry a long time, and there's lots of people who I know who you can speak to who will tell you my way of working and how I like to deliver and sort of the values and how they align with Gravitas's values. We move on. Again, because of we have that impartiality, as we said, we're not wedded to any suppliers or any particular sort of platforms or anything like. We'll work with all of them, and we have people who can talk to you about all of them, and they're specialists in those fields. And then because of our size, we can act very quickly. One of the things Matt will talk to you about later on is a bit of a framework agreement, but once we've got that in place, we can respond to you very, very quickly on your requirements and turn you around a solution in a very short period of time. And this is very much, and I am very much hoping Julie will attest to this shortly, but it's very much a true partnership approach. We're in this to work with you, and we want to get this right. It all lines up with our values, and this is, I would not have joined the organization if this wasn't highly important to the organization as well as to me. I've had these sort of values and more for sort of the past 5 years with my own business. But a true partnership, we should respect each other. We should be able to have straight conversations about challenges we both have and where we're at, understand what our needs are, work together with that integrity and passion to get you what you need and deliver it with an excellent solution. We want raving responses from all of you that we work with about what we did and how we did it and what a good job we did. So one, you'll come back, and two, you could be a reference for other people to come and do the same sort of things with us. So the big thing for me that differentiates us from everybody else is our core values and our want to be a true partner with you. Lots of people will say it, but I think because most of you know Gravitas and you've experienced it, we're just building on the back of that, and I'm bringing my personal values to it as well. My private company before I joined Gravitas was a company called Bushido IT Consulting. I called it Bushido because that's the 7 tenets of the samurai, and that's all about honor, respect, integrity, which is why John approached me. We are so aligned in our thinking and how we want to treat customers and deal with customers. It was a no-brainer for me to come on board and join with Gravitas. So hopefully that sort of gives you some idea of how we go about things, and we can happily talk more about this as we go forward and in the questions and answer session in the session as we move on. But moving on, Matt.
Great, thanks very much, Chris. So I will hand over to Julie now just to talk a little bit more about their requirements, how it was working or how it has been working with us, and put some more light on that. So over to you, Julie.
Okay, thanks very much, Matt. I'm going to start with a couple of apologies, actually. First of all, I've got a horrible cough, everybody, so I apologise if it affects the quality of the presentation. But I'm all right, but it's just my voice is croaking a little bit. And secondly, I've had to lock my cat out of this room, and she's not very happy about it. So if you hear lots of noises, the cat's fine, she's just grumpy. So I'll just launch straight in. So I mentioned earlier, I work for a company called Cooplands Son Scarborough Limited, and it's quite important to mention it's Scarborough because there's another Cooplands in Doncaster. Possibly, maybe all of you haven't heard of Cooplands. Cooplands is a family-owned bakery. It's been around since 1885, and it has manufacturing and retail operations. It's very similar to Greggs, but a lot smaller. So if you can picture a Greggs, that's what Cooplands is. We've got a £50 million turnover. We have manufacturing facilities in Durham, Scarborough and Hull. And we also have our retail outlets, which are about 170 odd shops, which are spread from Ashington in the northeast to Boston in Lincolnshire, and we go across to West Yorkshire, to Otley and Ilkley, and we're continuing to expand. We also have a few cafes, and we have about 35 food-to-go vans that go around industrial estates. We're just about to open next weekend in Flamingo Land as well, so we're expanding. So the sort of products that we do, it's a bakery. We're predominantly known for our sausage rolls. We do a lot of bread products and a lot of confectionery products as well, all freshly baked, delivered daily. So just to give you a bit of background as to why I've ended up with Gravitas, the recent history for Cooplands is that the family ownership structure has changed, and we are now, the family's still involved, but we're now predominantly PE backed, with BGF involved in the business, and that deal was concluded in November last year. I joined the business in September last year with a brief to help with the business goals over the next 5 years, to move it from this family-owned structure and the way that it was running at that point to perhaps a more corporate model over the next 5 years. We've obviously had some issues, as everybody has, over the last 12 months, but as a food business, we've continued to operate, and we actually did open 15 new shops in the last year. I think we opened 2 shops in lockdowns as well. So that went quite well. One of my first tasks was to complete a 5-year plan, which I've finished now, and that was to detail our business goals, of which a large part of that is around the IT strategy. Going forwards, we have plans to open about 30 shops every year for the next 5 years, and we have ambitious EBITDA growth. So that's our recent history. The challenges when I joined the business: there is no in-house IT structure at all in Cooplands, which was a bit of a surprise to me when I came in. Everything is outsourced, and the people within Cooplands dabble themselves. So that was a bit of a shock when I came in. We have or had a very haphazard approach to our systems purchases. So if somebody in the manufacturing department decided they wanted a solution for a problem they had, they just went out and bought it. Didn't even think about how that would impact anybody else in the business. Didn't think about that we might already have a system in the business that could solve their problem. So that was the way that the business ran when it was under family ownership. We had no formal processes for initial purchase of new systems. As I say, they would just go and buy it, or development of existing systems. So we ended up with quite a few different systems. And also, one of the biggest challenges for me was there was nobody in the business who understood all the different processes, the systems, and the integration or lack of between these. When I first arrived, I asked somebody if they could just let me have a list of all the different systems and what they did and the integration, and I got the most scary spider chart of lines everywhere, and it just didn't make any sense. And the business very much had a very much short-term outlook with a lack of focus on the long-term business goals. So that's what I came into. So one of my challenges is where do we move from here? So we might wonder why we chose Gravitas. And what we needed to do was we needed help to understand our current as-is situation, because it was really difficult to unravel that. And then advice on our to-be, because where we are today, we've got where we are today with great people, but not a lot of expertise. We've got some really challenging goals for the next 5 years. So the question was, how do we get to that, and do our existing systems, will they give us the ability to do that? So we recognised that this was going to be a significant project, starting from a really low base. So for this business, 50 million turnover, 1,700 staff, we have lots of manual, old-fashioned processes, and we needed to resolve the issues around that. And we knew that there would be substantial cost and time required in this. So one of the things that jumped out at me initially was that we needed different skill sets. And it was difficult to put all of these in place ourselves. So we have no IT people in our business. I can't suddenly go from 0 IT people to a team of 5 or 6, straight away. And so we needed these different skill sets. We had this standing start. So we knew the recruitment option wasn't the right fit for us at this point. There's no doubt we will end up going down that route at some point, but we needed to resolve these issues to begin with without recruiting a load of people. I then, through sort of a convoluted conversations with several people, came across a chap called Chris Llewellyn, which I think was just before Christmas, before Chris had joined Gravitas, but he was in the process of joining Gravitas. And then Chris and I had a couple of conversations where I was just basically saying, help, what do I do? And then when Chris joined Gravitas, we sort of moved on to a more formal footing. And one of the things that I really liked about Gravitas, and Chris in particular, was that Chris took time to understand our business and our business goals in the first instance. So it was just a case of, just let me understand the business, let me work out what do you want to do, and then we can see what we can do to help you. That was really important to me. We needed alignment of our IT requirements with our business goals, and Chris was definitely on board with that. And the key point for me was understanding what we need to achieve as a business, and therefore what technology solutions we needed to implement to this. We needed to have the ability to utilise the several different skill sets, and we wanted it to be based on an outcome basis, which obviously, as Matt and Chris have mentioned previously, that's something that Gravitas focus on. And then, of course, we had the IR35 risk, which I just didn't want to know anything about. Just take it away, Chris, and Chris took it away. So those were some of the reasons that we went with Chris. And I think for me, the key thing was that Chris got our business. He understood what we needed to do, which was brilliant, exactly what I needed to do. So the positives that we've seen to date, Chris has been able to assist with the issues that I face, and he works with me to find the solution. And we have regular meetings where I've probably got my head in my hands and say, what do I do? And Chris is very calm, as some of you will already know him, very easy to work with, and has helped me work through some quite difficult situations. Another key point was that care was taken to get the right match in terms of people. And by that, I mean that it wasn't just a case of we've got an IT expert that will come in and do what you need to do. The culture was really important. And going back again to the fact that we're a family-owned business, we've grown and we're very manual. We've had people who've been in the business for 20, 30 years. And it was really important that we got somebody who came in and was the right fit. We're very Yorkshire, and we wanted to make sure that we had somebody that could work with the other people there. So Chris took a lot of care to make sure that we found that right person. And engaging with Gravitas has bought us time as a business to understand what our future IT function for Cooplands will look like, because we need a bit of time to understand, once we get through our transformation process, where we go. We had a practical approach to our issues, and we've had a lot of flexibility through Chris and the team. And the other key point for me, obviously, as a financial professional, is that the costs of the project have been clear. And again, that's one of the benefits of this outcome-based approach. So it's not open-ended. We get the statement of works. We work with Chris and the team. We understand what it is are going to be the deliverables, and we understand exactly what it's going to cost. And that's great for me to take to my board and discuss with them. So that's a very quick run through. My voice is held out, thank goodness, through that. So back to you, Matt, or if anybody's got any questions.
Thanks very much, Julie. I think that's a really good overview. Right, well, we're coming to that point where it is now time to open the floor to everybody else. We did say that there'll be a Q&A session, and we've got time for that now. So I'll stop sharing my screen and just see if who has any questions. I know I reached out to most of you beforehand just to see if there's anything specific, but are there any questions or anything that people want to share with us right now?
Matt, could I ask a question about how, Chris, you mentioned earlier on about dependencies, yeah, and how you rely on your customers to meet their side of the bargain to keep things on track. And I'm just curious to understand, and please don't read anything into this question, but when your customers have something that they need to fulfill, a key dependency, that means that you can't move forward without them having fulfilled that. If they, through no fault of their own or otherwise, fail to meet that, or the landscape changes, circumstances change, in your experience, those sorts of things I would imagine can cause friction. And I wondered whether you had a view as to how you best deal with those situations.
No, great question. What we do is, because we've got an engagement manager, even on the sort of small agile pieces of work we do, we have that PMO engagement manager involved. And they're basically the glue between both sides, and they keep an eye on everything. So always we're talking and communicating about if the customer does have any dependencies. We try and take on as much as we can ourselves, but if those key dependencies are there, or there's assumptions we've made, that engagement manager is talking constantly to the customer about, are you okay? Are you still on time? Are you going to be able to deliver them, and whatever else? If they can't for any reason, and sometimes circumstances change, or the world moves on, or there's a bit of a problem, somebody goes off sick, for instance, etc., there are a number of options we can do. If we can adjust the plan accordingly to accommodate that change and shuffle people around, we will always go to that space first. So that agile flexibility piece that we talked about earlier on, because the engagement manager's there, they've built that relationship that Julie's talking about. We will know what, if you tell us, and we're communicating well, we'll know about that problem in advance. We will always try and deal with it that way. If we can't chiv it around and do something in that space, we'll look at what the impact is. Now, if it's just a case of moving some milestones out and timeframes and whatever else, and we can accommodate it that way, we would do so. If we can't, then we look at putting a change request in place and sort of doing a change control. And we look, and we're very open about what the impact to us is on sort of that. So, if we're retaining resource to do your work that we had scheduled to put on another piece of work, we're having to shuffle around and whatever else. And we work with you in that partnership style to sort of say, right, here's the impact on us. Depending on what you want, we can either, there's a thing we refer to as the iron triangle, which is three corners of time, cost, and quality. And we will look to either move the time, the cost, or the quality out to accommodate things. So if the right thing to do is say, well, okay, well, we won't actually include this particular piece, and we'll bring in the scope a little bit, so we pull a quality element in. That's not saying the quality comes down, we're just removing an element of the scope to achieve it. That might be the right solution for the customer. If it's a case of, well, we absolutely need to have this, and therefore there's a cost associated, we would agree what that cost was and sort of sign off an agreed change request. If it's a case of we can put more people on it to get it done sooner, either from the customer side or our side, we would do that. So very organized governance process sitting over all of this. So there's no surprises wherever possible. And when we have got surprises, that we work in partnership to get the right solution, and we adjust that milestone outcome accordingly. Does that answer your question, Julie?
It does. Just one more quick question, just to build on that, and I don't want to dominate, but do you tend to build contingency and in a transparent way into the cost of these projects? Because I can imagine, with regard to a project, for instance, you might look at the RAID log to begin with, take a view about risks, and then have a budget which is associated with, managing some of those risks, and put that there for all to see, so that that you've got a pot you can lean on in terms of financial risk if you need to.
Yeah, so as Matt said at the start, we sort of do the John Lewis piece. So we're not going to be the cheapest people out there. We're not the most expensive by any stretch of the imagination. So there is a factor that we put into our pricing calculation that says we are taking on a certain amount of risk here. And the idea being that if we can accommodate any part of that risk within that cost, we would do so. So again, when we're forming this solution with you, if time is of the essence, then we will happily agree that we are going to put tight timescales and rigid and very little slack in that sort of elapsed time element. But we do it with agreement with you. And this is referring back to sort of the conversation Julie was mentioning, where it's very much understanding what your need is. So if you've got a hard stop time, we may put that tight time scale in and therefore agree collectively that if we don't meet it for any reason, then there's potential risk for additional time. So you could budget that. Alternatively, if we want a bit sort of time isn't of the essence and we've got a bit more time and you don't want to stress your people, we can advance the timelines that we baseline in the first instance. So yes, we do that, but we don't just put a whole chunk of additional cost on you for no reason. And we'll do it in a fashion which is the right way for you as your particular requirement as a customer at that instance.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
No problem.
Thanks, Julie. Does anyone else have a question? Conscious we've only got a few more minutes left, and I will be offering follow-up consultations with everybody. So if you don't have a chance to ask a question now, we will have a chance to speak to you in more detail. But does anyone else have a question before we finish off today? I
think Sue might. She's come off mute.
Yes, just a real quick one. Is everything fixed price, or do you do T&M as well?
We can do T&M completely under there as well. It is usually based on an outcome.
Yeah.
And what we do there is we'll put a retention fee in place, which says until we've actually delivered the outcome, there's part of the price that's held back until you sign off that you're happy. So again, that quality standard can be there.
That's great. Thank you.
No problem.
I think just to add to that as well, obviously, if you can't put an outcome on something, then we do also have the recruitment business that can provide you with that specialist resource as well. So again, that's back to being able to partner with you across a breadth of solutions.
And I think that's an important thing to stress. We've had a number of people come to us from the consultancy side and asked a whole bunch of questions. Can you help us from this point of view? And we've actually gone back to them and said, we actually recommend you just take somebody on a flat contract basis, on the grounds that the real requirement, I don't think wouldn't suit you and wouldn't be fair to put it through a consultancy option. So again, it's that always picking the right answer for the customer. You know, we want to let you know consultancy is there. We're really keen to do consultancy with you, but we would never force you into a consultancy solution that isn't right for you.
Right, okay, I'm going to wrap things up there, everybody. But just before we do finish off, we've mentioned about sharing our MSA, so Master Services Agreement, which is effectively a framework agreement that we ask our clients to sign up to. It might be that you have your own that you look to get people, the suppliers, to sign up to when you're working with them on outcome-based solutions. But what we'll do is we'll follow up and share our MSA with you, because even if you don't have an immediate requirement, if we get that in place, sometimes it can take between sort of 1 to 4 weeks working with your procurement and legal team. Then we can get that in place so that then we can raise statement of works very quickly. So we'll share that with you as a follow-up and look to get the Master Services Agreement in place. We'll also book follow-up consultations with you as well, because I know there's a number of you who've got some more specific questions and more interested to hear more. So really keen to have those individual sessions with everybody. And then finally, just keep you in the loop with any future thought leadership and events that we've got coming up in this space. We will be building out our LinkedIn presence as well, so you can keep track of that. We'll let you know on that. But I'd just like to thank everybody for joining today. It's been great to have you all on board, and look forward to speaking to you all very shortly. So enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
And thanks to Julie for contributing today. Really appreciate it. Great to meet you all for those who haven't met. And yeah, any questions, contact Matt or I, and we'll address those for you.